What's on Your Mind is sponsored by ACC 339 Dudley Road, New Style Radio 98.7 FM, Breakthrough Studios, and Reggae Jam Jam.
Good afternoon, guys. How you doing? Welcome to another program in the series of What's on Your Mind. The program is produced by Breakthrough TV, and I am Carl. Let me say good afternoon. Hope all is well with you. I want to say thanks for all you guys who tune into the program. And if it's your first time, please do subscribe to the channel and please share the program. I want to say big thanks to my guests I had last week in the program, Rodix Bailey. Absolutely wonderful brother. Let me say big shout out to you. Big shout out to you. That wonderful exhibition down there at the Grosvenor Road studio, I should say. Big, massive respect. Thank you. And guys, you need to go and check that program out because that was actually a wonderful program and it gives you a whole lot of history down there. I also want to say big shout out to Mr. G. Cross down here in Jamaica. How you doing, sir? Hope all is well with you. And let me say thank you. G. Cross is one of our Jamaican correspondents, and we hook up with him all the time. And he tell us what I go on a yard, if you don't mind saying. If I don't mind saying. Hector, how you doing? Big shout out to you. My whole family, my family in Birmingham, let me say big shout out to you. All you guys who tune into the program, let me say massive respect. Got a wonderful guest with me in the studio this afternoon. Wow. He's a writer, he's a vocalist, and he is a performing arts poet. And his name is Mr. Michael Watson. How you doing, sir?
How you doing, my good friend? You good, Carl?
Thanks. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm blessed to be here.
How you been?
I've been all right, to be honest. Just usual work and thing, really, but just trying to stay humble, stay grounded, stay focused as well.
And how's your day been?
Not a bad day, to be honest. Yeah. Working earlier, just kind of got through that and just started to then sort of take it easy and prepare for our conversation, really. And
poetry is your big performance, I have to say.
Poetry is my thing, man. Definitely. Poetry is like my art, my therapy, my calling. It's many things.
It's many things.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And I know you got some poems coming up for us a bit later on our platform, what we call our platform.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
It's good to have you. And relax, don't be nervous, because I'm nervous.
It's only natural, though, isn't it? Nah, I'm all right, to be fair. I'm good.
Well, my smile helps me. Yeah. When I'm nervous, my laugh helps me. You know what I mean? Now, guys, let me break this up now. I came across something today, which was actually, I think this happened about a year ago. And because, it's coming up to Easter time, isn't it? And it's spring today as well.
Yeah, March the 21st.
Yeah, March the spring equinox. That's when the sun is, at noon, the sun is directly over the equator. Yes. The equator, which is absolutely marvelous. So it's springtime. The other one, when they say it's March the 1st, is actually for data.
Right.
It's for data purpose.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So they say it starts March the 1st, but that's for data. And it's like that the old generation, the equinox is when the old generation used to look at the sky and tell you what time of day it was.
That's right.
And that's how that works out.
That's right. They used to have clocks, didn't they, for like the day and for the hour, the sundial.
That's right, which is absolutely
based on the movement of the sun.
Marvelous, yeah. Now, while I don't do jokes very often. This is not a joke. This is something I actually come across. Sure. And a Kenyan preacher has asked for police protection. This happened last year. And you shouldn't laugh when you're telling the story. And God, I can't help it. And he actually said he asked for police protection because one of the reasons he did this is that he says he was Jesus Christ. He's Jesus.
Okay.
So what the community decide to do, they decide to sacrifice him to see if he will rise again.
Wow. Wow.
So the police had to go and save him.
Right.
I couldn't help it when I hear it.
Where was this?
This somewhere in Kenya.
Wow.
You know what I mean? This happened last year when I came across. It's because it's Easter. I thought that because resurrection time, isn't it? So because it's that, I had to use that. But can you think how people crazy? Is that what you can say? Crazy?
We live in interesting times, We live in very interesting times. What can you say? That's interesting, very interesting.
It is very interesting. Anyway, guys, forget the laugh now, even though I'm always laughing. Anyway, I always look at a few stories that's happening across the world. Now, Diane Abbott has thanked a crowd who gathered to support her on Friday night, telling crowds they must stand up and fight against racism. And this is after the remark that was made by Frank Hester, the Tories' biggest donor, and she says you should always stand up for racism. You know, I mean, it alleged what he actually said, and we're not gonna go on what he allegedly said again because that is just too much. That is just too much. You know what I mean? So we hope things will change. You know what I mean? But there was a big crowd that actually supported him. You know what I mean? And also there was a march, there was a rally in Whitehall, which was actually you know, one of those things that actually happened. And the other thing about Diana, about last week Wednesday, they was actually talking about her in the house, and she was in the house, and she wanted to ask a question. However, the speaker wouldn't allow her to answer the question. She actually sort of, speaker, I'm here, and she did this about 40 times.
Wow.
And she was ignored. You know what I mean? And some people say that the speaker is sort of, you know what I mean, he's sort of failing democracy, which, you know, terrible times. What do you think about that?
I think it's a very telling indication, really. Yeah. At the same time, as a society, we've progressed, and I think Black Lives Matters help sort of bring the conversation about the unlevel playing field to the surface, and a lot of people have had that. But you know, attitudes still prevail. I think the comments that were made, really, I'm not that surprised. Disappointed, but not that surprised.
What do you say, not surprised?
Well, I think, to be honest, certainly in my own lifetime, you know, I've sort of experienced barriers, if you like, that I feel might be attributed to kind of racial prejudice. But, you know, I think the reality is people say a lot of things for the narrative, and sometimes it feels like we do certain things just for tick boxing, but attitudes and feelings are quite deeply entrenched, and they don't just go away, they don't just change. And you know, it's sad and disappointing, really, in terms of the comments that were made, particularly as, you know, Diane Abbott is probably one of the first black female
She's the longest first person of color in the House.
And I don't necessarily even subscribe to her as a politician, but and her politics, but I like the way, I like what she represents, and I think, well, I would just say this: I think if Diane Abbott was a person of another colour, I think the situation might be taken with a bit more seriousness.
It would have been a lot more serious. It would have been a lot more serious, yeah. It would have been, I mean, I couldn't say that about a person of another colour, you know what I mean? Correct. You couldn't do exactly the same thing, you know what I mean? Which is absolutely ridiculous, you know what I mean? And in a time like now when we're all supposed to be coming together and working together, you know what I mean? And we hear all kind of different things, you know what I mean? I think that was actually disgusting. Now, remember, the man who said it, he hasn't admitted that he's apologized, but I don't know what he's apologized for, you know. But he hasn't allegedly. Let's say allegedly, he hasn't said he's done it.
Well, put it like this: if you don't like someone, you can make a comment about them, but to then make a comment about their colour and extend it to every other person, every other woman of colour, and then the bit about shooting, which, you know, you're inciting violence there. That could be tried as criminal.
Really. And if I said to you, I'm going to shoot you, you said to me, I'm going to shoot you, I would imagine it's a criminal offence.
Yeah, there's serious threat, isn't there, and a risk to life. We live in a time where politicians have been attacked.
That's right.
You know, so, you know, I think people have to be careful about the sort of things that they're saying, you know, in that respect.
Totally. Guys, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the program, and leave your comment in the box, yeah? Let me tell you. And let me say thanks to all you guys who leave your comment in the box. Don't just do it on Facebook, please. Do it in the box. I know all of you put it on Facebook, that's the other thing, you know what I mean? Don't just do it on Facebook. And let me say, I'm not complaining, I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just pointing in a different direction. I know. Now, let me go to, wow, as you know, the big trouble. On Sunday, the Defiance PM of Israel has vowed to press on ahead of the assaults on southern Gaza in the city of Rafah, despite international criticism, and he's still going to do that. Now, also coming from AP News on Monday, EU top diplomat Burrell accused Israel of using starvation as a weapon of war in Gaza. Israel has blamed Hamas. There's a lot of stuff going on in that war over there. And a lot of people has died. And sometimes when you see your television screen, you can't deal with it. You can't deal with it.
It's true.
Let me move on. According to Loop News, Jamaican authorities are now moving fast to plug the gap that could allow criminals to benefit from the jury tampering after the UK Privy Council squashed the murder conviction against Cartel and his co-defendants. And the DPP has actually said they're looking for a retrial. That is also a very, very serious thing. I know the case is costing a lot of money. A lot of money.
That's right. Taxpayer money.
A lot of taxpayer money, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know how that one's gonna. And it's been going on for such a long time, and they've been doing something for such a long time. And you have to have a lot of money to come to London to the Privy Council.
It has. But then Vibes Cartel is obviously a prolific artist, and he's fortunate that he has many eyes that know of who he is, that perhaps can help. Raise kind of the importance of his concerns really in that respect. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It is, and I think that's going to drag on for a little while as well. Yeah. Now, guys, let me move on. Now, Birmingham, UB40. Now, there's a big UB40 fans in Birmingham. UB40 is liked very, very well in the UK and across the world. Now, UB40, comes to Birmingham. I don't know which one. Let me explain this. There's a feud been going on between these brothers for many years. Ali Campbell and Robin Campbell. And the feud has been going for quite some time. And I think they actually fall out. Now, Robin Campbell will come to Birmingham City Football Ground, I think about the early parts of April, to do a 45-year anniversary concert for UB40. And now, that was Robbie. Now, Ali Campbell comes to Birmingham with a different UB40 to perform in Birmingham also. Now, Birmingham Lives have catch up with them, and when they asked about is the feud going to come to an end, I think Ali Campbell has said it's wasting his time, so it's not going to happen, right? Now, Robin has actually hit back, and Robin says Ali Campbell is actually doing a solo project that's got nothing at all to do with UB40. So the fight goes on between what was such a big band. The fight goes on. And, it's a shame to see this, because I can recall, I do know, everybody's in Birmingham got a UB40 story to tell. And I can recall we used to go to a bar in Birmingham City Centre, and one of the guys from UB40 actually owns that bar, and it was a sort of where you call Snow Hill, just before you get up to the police headquarters, Lighthouse. Well, where that is, there used to be a little place up there called, there's like a ramp where a lot of shops used to be there. I don't know if you probably know where that was. The Lighthouse, if you come up Snow Hill, Lighthouse, and if you look back where the hotel is now, before the hotel has actually taken part of that as well, and the whole of Lighthouse has taken that now. But there used to be a little ramp up there, and you could walk up there, and there's the shops up there. Well, they used to have a little place up there called Fanny's. Okay.
Yes, and we used to, don't laugh. I know you was going to laugh. I know you was going to laugh about that. I haven't made that up, trust me. And so a lot of us used to go up there, and we used to go up there and have a little chat. And sometimes we see the guys, and we have a little chat in there, which was absolutely, it's such a save, I can remember seeing UB40 many moons ago as well. There was a big pub. Everybody say it was a hero though when I tell this. Well, everybody say it was the Hero and Hound when I say this, but I actually saw them many moons ago at a pub on Moseley Road called the New Inns Pub.
Right, okay.
I think it had been closed down many years ago, and then it opens again. I think it's actually a restaurant now. So that was the first, and it's like where you like sort of where I think the Bosley Heat Road comes out onto Moseley Road, right at the very top, which I mean, so it was actually great to see that. But I must say, fighting. And the sad thing about that, they're Campbells.
For namesake. you're always going to get sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
Look at Noel and Liam
Well,
Gallagher.
they compare that. There was a story. There was a story about actually Ali Campbell. You know what I mean? I'm actually like telling a story. It's like they've actually dragged those two names in it.
Yeah.
To say they're like they're like exactly what's going on between the two Gallagher brothers. You know.
It happens.
But he's actually also told a different story. He's actually tell more of what happens. You know what I mean? Of what's,
Right.
Ali Campbell has actually come out with more of what's caused the feud. You know what I mean? So that is you just never know what's going to happen.
This is true.
We've lost some members in that group as well.
We have, yeah.
Before the feud is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is, I don't know.
Sad but true.
Sad but true. Family feud. Don't forget, guys, to like, share, and subscribe. So, that's how it goes sometimes. Now, reggae artist Grams Morgan has joined Goodwill Ambassador in raising fund for the construction of the Mary Isa Health Center in Jamaica, which is absolutely marvelous. And the health center, when it's finished, it is free for children and adolescents, which will be absolutely marvelous. Yeah, that is good, isn't it?
Beautiful, you know. It's nice to see people just doing a cause for the community.
Yeah.
'Cause I think we live in a time where we're often concerned with our own preoccupations and things like that. So giving back is great.
Which is absolutely marvelous. Now, according to the Independence, another Campbell here as well, you know. A lot of Campbell in the show tonight. The Queen herself, Naomi Campbell. Naomi Campbell says she fears the fashion industry is going back on diversity. The supermodel has been a trailblazer for absolutely 4 decades. You know what I mean? And she was the first woman of color on Vogue magazine.
Right.
Quite a few of those covers as well. And she had an exhibition at the Albert and Victoria Museum in London. And I said the exhibition was there over the weekend. And she said the fashion industry is probably going back in time on diversity.
In some respects, it's not that surprising in terms of the way it's organised and run.
Yeah.
And I hope actually her speaking out can actually just invoke some change, and people can really begin to think about what she's saying and perhaps address some of those concerns. Really.
Yeah.
The fashion industries, I don't know much about it myself, but you know, you kind of see how it works, and it's very kind of controlled and.
Yeah, because I mean, away from Naomi Campbell, I can think of Naomi Campbell. I can think of another lady.
Imani.
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Was married to David Bowie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. You take that out of my mouth. I can think of Imani. There's a couple of there's about another 2 I can think of who's American.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beyond that, I can't think of anyone away from Naomi Campbell. There probably is there. But for name brand, or to say jump in your head like that and say such and such a person is from Europe or even from this country, a big name, I can't think of one.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I think the key thing is when we talk about ED&I, one of the most important things is representation, really. And I think the fact that you struggle to be able to think of any outside of those is quite telling, really. You know, so as I say, I hope sheds light on the matter and people really begin to think about that and, you know, create a more inclusive space, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Right, Michael. You're a poet. You're a vocalist, and you have done a lot. You've been on a lot of different platforms. You've done a lot of open mic sessions. Yeah.
Yes.
You've also did an opening at the Perry Bar train station.
That's right. Yeah, the renovation not the Olympics, the
train stations.
Yeah. But it was in conjunction with the sports event. Sorry, it's escaped my mind now. But it's Commonwealth. That's the one. Yeah, the Commonwealth. So yeah, obviously they did a renovation. That was a great thing, actually. That was really through Michael Brown, Wasifa, actually through Ola Brown, who you had on recently.
Yeah, she's been on this program, yeah.
Yeah.
Big shout out to you, Ola.
Yeah, shout out to Ola as well. She's my cousin, family, so you know.
Oh,
she was the person that really gave me that opportunity and said, you know, would you like to do something for that? So that was quite nice, really. Just given that I've lived in and around the Perry Bar area, you know, it's just nice to be able to mark the occasion.
Great.
You know.
Let me ask you then, how did it all started for you? The poetry, how did it started?
Well, I've always been a writer.
Yeah, the writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think growing up, everyone wanted to be an MC. That was very much a normal aspiration for guys. So, you know, in fact, before even MCing, let me go back. I can think of the days of toasting and chatting. You know, I mean, my earliest kind of sort of memories of that sort of mic talk really was, I can think of people like Yellowman.
Yeah.
You know, zungo, zungo, go zungo,
Yeah,
zeng.
yeah.
You know, it goes back as far as then. So, you know, you kind of emulate the sort of MCs, and you know, you begin to try and write your own sort of lyrics and things. But it was more of a hobby, just a personal pastime, really. And then I think as sort of my music tastes evolved, my aspirations and writing kind of evolved with it. So I would say there's almost like, you've kind of got the Caribbean toasting dancehall culture. You've got hip hop and rap. You've got the UK sound, particularly sort of jungle. And jungle was an interesting genre and period because it was the first time that the British accent was more of an acceptable, cool sort of thing, if you know what I mean. Prior to that, people were rapping with American accents.
You talk like that.
or you know, or talking with you know, patois, you know, like
right,
for the chatting type thing. But I've always been a sort of a writer and sort of enjoyed doing things amongst friends and whatnot, really. And then I studied English at an A level.
Yeah. I was gonna,
English language, English literature.
Not to interrupt you. I was going to ask you about school. What about school? What school you went to?
Yeah. So primary school, Heathfield Primary, on Heathfield Road, B19, Lascelles.
Yeah.
And then secondary school was at Dartmouth High School, which is in Great Bar, B43, just near Junction 7 of the M6. And you know, it was interesting because obviously you grow up in sort of in and around Birmingham. I used to live on Wilson Road, just off the bottom of Heathfield Road.
Know it well.
Yeah, yeah.
B19.
Yeah, that's it. That's, you know, so there's a whole community.
So we all come out of it. I mean, I got to tell you guys, I've never met Michael before, but he's actually we actually, I lived in B19 myself.
Yeah. I think I was first. I used to live on Anglesey Street up until sort of preschool ages, nursery. Then we moved to Wilson Road. But that kind of, you know, you're in and around, obviously, the culture, you're kind of shaped by that. And music really has probably been the biggest influence on my wanting to write and perform. And as I say, that follows from sort of reggae, ragga, dancehall, hip-hop, garage, jungle. But in terms of the writing and performance, I think I always did sort of things privately, and then I started DJing in my late teens with a few friends, you know, kind of sound system culture in it. So a couple of friends had sort of musical decks set up in the garage, and we do a lot of mixing, and I learned to kind of mix and DJ, and we threw a few kind of private parties. At that time, I was sort of buying records, and I was buying more sort of soul, R&B, and then it sort of changed to garage around sort of late 90s, maybe about 98, 99. Yeah. So whilst I'm kind of doing the whole DJing music piece, I'm still writing. I'm still writing, and then sort of studying. I did A levels after sort of GCSEs. And English was one of them. So really I was able to kind of fine tune and better articulate the poetry in a way that perhaps the academic audience might appreciate a bit more, and just be able to kind of express and break it down.
I understand. What about B19 and the sort of I know we know there's good things come out of B19 and the sort of gang things. And we are on the edge of Hansworth and Aston, the Burger Boys, and the Johnsons.
That's a really interesting point. I think, like we were saying earlier, I think growing up in Birmingham has been very interesting, and I think sadly, the gang violence has polarised and really impacted the city, and certainly my generation. You know, a lot of people have died. A lot of people have gone to jail.
Have you known any of these people?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, yeah. I've had many friends.
Or say you
I've
go
had
to
a few-
school or
I've had-
people you've been associated with.
We'll put it like this. Heathfield Primary, you know, there was a few people in Johnson's that went to...
Heathfield.
A few kind of senior people in the Johnson's crew that would have went to Heathfield. So you grow up around these people and obviously you know them before they start doing what they're doing.
Thing, yeah.
And it's just interesting to see the journey. But my parents were my mum was really quite strict, really. And I think... You know, I think she was aware of the pitfalls of the area, and I suppose the economics of the area as well, knowing that, you know, how easy it is to kind of fall into certain patterns. And, you know, I can't even say, I think most people in my area either know people on both sides, Burger Bar, Johnson's, or you were in it. Really, that's the reality of it, because you grow up with the community to a greater or lesser extent. And, you know, when you live in an area of hardship or deprivation, there are certain, there's a culture around that. And you know, I can understand why a lot of people did what they did. Okay. You know, even my own life, I've kind of done, you know, kind of swerved in and out and done a few things. But I had kind of certain things that sort of kept me grounded, if you know what I mean. So I didn't really fall too deep into certain paths and certain activities, if you like.
Right. Sorry, you wouldn't be here talking to me today,
yeah, this is true. This is true. This is very true.
You talk about music being one of your major influences. What about who's some of your favorites? I know you probably got a lot. Some of your favorites artists or acts.
Yeah. Okay.
Influence. I mean, I know you're probably very heavily influenced by the hip hop sort of groove.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I think I might have mentioned, I even wrote a poem about hip hop, really, just trying to talk about the story of how hip hop has evolved, called "What Happened to My Girl," and I've got a sort of a 4-part series on it and a video. But influences, all right then. So, as I say, early raga. So people like Tiger, Kotti, Shabba, Buju. Buju's a big influence, really, and
serious?
You know, I've watched him evolve as an artist and as a man from the days of Mr. Mention, Move on a Body. Remember that? Move on a Body, move. From those days to him kind of going to Shiloh, I would say. You know, so he got Voice of Jamaica.
Destiny.
And you know, exactly. And actually, I saw Buju in I went to Sting in 1998, I think it was, or 1999, and Buju performed Destiny, and it was almost spiritual, you know.
Yeah, well, I gotta say that one of his many tracks that is like you know, it is a very good track. Yeah.
It was powerful. It was powerful. But to see him as an artist, you know, go kind of through the dancehall thing, and then him being elevated, and then sort of the boom bye bye and the controversy about that, and then he's sort of him digging deep into more of the kind of cultural aspect of the reggae and taking a slightly different avenue. That was really interesting. But other influences, really, hip hop. You know, people like and it goes from people like Tribe Called Quest, NWA, Public Enemy, to your DMX, Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, Immortal Technique, J. Rue the Damager.
Yeah, but what about hip hop? I mean, I love hip hop when hip hop was like I've said this many times, together. Yeah. Fight the power. Yeah, coming as one. Togetherness. I like how it. Same with dancehall music. I like dancehall music when it's all coming together. People loving each other, helping each other, 100%. Respecting each other, respecting the culture, respecting where they come from. 100%. But hip hop changed so much, and I'm not knocking it. I don't know if it's for money gains or those guys, but it changed. It changed, isn't it? It changed from the days of fighting the power and coming together.
You're absolutely right.
And how do you feel about that?
I think there are a couple of things really in as far as that. Obviously, when hip hop first came out, it was more of a voice for the voiceless.
That's right.
It was people talking about the inequality of the inner city lives and saying, we're not happy, we want to change that.
It becomes what we call the hip hop Bible. Just like, you know, I've said many times, reggae music, in the early days of reggae music is the people's Bible. So it becomes becomes the people's Bible then, isn't it? In the early days.
But then the music reflects the spirit of the people. So you got to remember, you then have sort of the mid-80s with the sort of crack epidemic and the explosion of drugs. And then the violence that comes with that. And I think the music then started to reflect that. So we then see a sort of a transition from consciousness and sort of speaking out about injustice to more about the pursuit of money, and then, you know, violence, territorial kind of claims, and you know, it sort of followed, as I say, the spirit of the people. And you know, in some respects, I feel commerce is a blessing, but almost a curse as well.
In what context?
Well, I just think people start making money. People start making music for money, and I think the sort of commercial contours have guided the music down a certain path, really. And you know, if you look at the music now, arguably there's some very great artists, but arguably if you speak to a lot of the original veterans of hip hop, they might say, you know, it's not the same, really.
Of course, not the same.
And also, dare I say, hip hop was subculture, graffiti art, and rap.
Yeah.
Whereas what we listen to now is more rap music. You could say it's still hip hop, but you know, it's quite a different sound. Gangster rap and hip hop are quite different. You know,
that's
ostensibly.
totally,
you know,
totally.
So
we see another thing, because you're younger than me, so we see a lot of what we call knife crime in our city. And I don't want to go on a negative way, but by only talking about these things, we may be able to help. You know, we'll be able to find a solution amongst we talking to ourselves, because, you know,
100%.
We see so much knife crime, even younger than your generation. We see so much 100%. Knife crime. What is going on? What is going on?
A lot of things are going on. I think I think, as we just talked about society changing, and we talked about things like drugs in the community, which directly impacted Birmingham. You know, I would say 96, we saw the kind of explosion of kind of crack really on the streets, and, you know, weed dealers became crack dealers, and then with that is an escalation of violence. There's more money and that. Now, I think you've got those kind of issues. I also think you've also got the things like sort of, I want to say, people have greater access to kind of more violent imagery through modern media, computer games.
Music.
And this has been happening over music. 100%.
Lyrics.
100%.
Lyrics and music.
You got to remember as well, you know, when you talk about music, music does impact the soul. You know,
I'm glad you said that, because I've
100%.
I've tried to have this conversation many times with people and say the lyrics in music, not so much the music, but the music does it as well.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, what I'm more concerned about, I'm more concerned about the lyrics in music.
Yep.
I mean, and we see it in dancehall music, big time, and we see it in hip hop music, big time.
100%. I remember being about 11 years old, and reciting certain tunes. And it could be gun lyrics of Jamaica, it could be people like Scarface. And what that does, firstly, is when you're listening to those kind of things, it desensitizes you to those things. It becomes less of a shock factor and more accessible. But the key thing is we talk about music and the impact it has on people. You got to remember, musical tones and scales, forget lyrics for a minute, but musical tones, scales and keys can influence mood, feeling, setting. Just listen to a film, watch a horror film, and listen to the music. It creates a feeling. Watch any other kind of film, you know. So
because what you have in music is you've got what they call modes.
Correct.
Modes. You got musical modes.
Correct.
Like you've got and that is where I can actually see that is actually going.
Correct. But then you've got the lyrics.
Yes.
And you've got the lyrics that you consciously listen to, and then there's the lyrics that you unconsciously listen to. Have you ever had a scenario where you're in a supermarket and the music's playing, and then you leave that supermarket, you find yourself singing the song that you were just listening to without even realizing subconsciously, because you're taking it in. And then if you add rhythm, you know, if you speak to anyone that does hypnotism, rhythm has something to do with activating your subconscious and planting ideas into your sort of, you know, your sort of deeper thinking mind. So music's very powerful.
I recall when I was actually studying music, and I was my teacher, and he says we was looking at modes, and he says this is like a mixolydian modes. Like a mixolydian, like you'll get like a jazz guy who plays like in the mixolydian, and the blues guys, and then you have like a Fijian mode. It's like another mode which you actually get played. And he says the one they actually use for films. I think it's called a locuration mode.
Right.
And you actually use it for films. And he says, Carl, the best way to remember this is like you're flying. You know, like
Right.
because the way that mode is, it's like you're flying. So that's why you hear the theme music in films. It's sort of like different, and it's sort of different compared to what we call Mixolydian mode or even the Dorian mode.
That's
so,
right.
And you're totally right in what you're
right.
saying there.
Definitely. So, you know, music is very powerful. We say, there's a saying that art is the science of the soul, as in it reflects movements of the soul, and music is art, right? So, and then there's this whole debate, does art influence people or do people influence art? Personally, I think it's a symbiotic two-way relationship.
Both ways.
Yeah,
Both
100%.
ways.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful, a very powerful medium. So, you know, people have to really pay attention to the things that you kind of are intaking, you know, because you internalize it whether you know it or not.
Okay, totally. Spoken word poet. So you're a spoken word poet?
I am.
Yes. Absolutely fantastic. And who are some of the poets that influence you? You just go around and get your own inspiration, or you walk around the culture and get your own inspiration?
You know, someone asked me this before, and if I'm honest, I think I've been, as a spoken word performer, I've been more inspired by the music. So that's performing artists, rappers, singers. However, I suppose in school, I've always liked poetry. And I remember people like William Blake, Shakespeare, Ted Hughes. But then you've got other artists, other poets, people like Maya Angelou, you know. And then, but you got to remember, poetry has been in our culture for quite a long time. If you think, you have things like the Harlem Renaissance, where poetry was celebrated as a culture, and this is performing, speaking poetry, you know. There are a great raft of poets. I probably don't read enough poetry, if I'm honest.
Is it?
I'm more of a listener to poetry rather than a reader. But saying that, you know, there's people like sort of Ben Zephaniah, I
was waiting to ask that.
Maccabi Selassie, you know what I mean?
Benjamin Zephaniah.
Yeah. And I even I was invited to read one of his poems actually at an event. Just shortly after his passing, they wanted to acknowledge him around Christmas time, and that was really nice. I never met Ben Zephaniah personally, but my dad went to school with him.
Yeah, I met him
Mr.
personally.
Springer.
I met him personally.
Yeah.
Great guy.
So you know, his work was, I'm familiar with some of it because, as I say, my dad kind of went to school with him, and you know, you'd hear some of his stuff. But you know, even I talked about people like Maccabi Selassie and Muta Baruka. You know what I mean? Those kind of people are quite inspirational.
Absolutely. Ben, you've Ben for a very long time, and I've met Ben and I've actually chatted with Ben. Yeah. And when he passed, I was so shook up, and I was doing my radio show, and it literally gets me so, you know, it gets me really down. The only thing that could actually, because when he died when I got on the air.
Yeah.
So I got the news when I got on the air, and I remember it shook me up so much. And there's nothing shook you up than somebody like an artist that you know. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
100%.
You've had a chat with,
100%.
and it shook me up so much. And I remember what I'm gonna do here, and I remember pulling out this track. Funny track he did about the turkey.
Yes,
and
that's the poem I read.
My days.
Brilliant poem.
Brilliant poem. And he actually read the turkey, and that really cheered me up. You know what I mean? That really made me feel like it's absolutely marvelous.
And it's nice because, you know, obviously Ben Zephaniah wrote on a range of subjects. The turkey being quite a lighter side, but you know, he was a man that spoke his mind. He spoke about sort of deeper truths, some of the things that he witnessed in life, and as you know, he was awarded an OBE, which he declined.
That's right.
You know, he's a man of principle.
Of course.
And there aren't many people
there,
that
there,
would
not,
do
there are
that.
not many people. And
It's quite remarkable, really.
I read something. Why? And if you, I'm not going to go into it now. But if you go to, I mean, he says why he rejected it.
Yeah.
If you go and read why he says he rejected it, it makes a lot of sense.
I've heard.
You've heard it, right?
I've heard.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, he wanted to stick to his principles.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and I think he did that really. To be honest,
Yes.
it was sad. His death was quite sudden, and I think before his time, if I'm honest.
Of course. So had a lot more to come.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, since 2021, you've been actively doing your active. So, what have you been up to since 2021? You've been writing, performing, and you're doing different events.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been doing a few different things, few public performances. You talked about the Perry Bar station. I've performed at quite a few sort of open mic sort of sessions, few community places. I was at the Drum, been there sort of a few times. But I've also been doing workshops in schools as well.
Yeah, tell us a little about that.
Well, I enjoy learning, so I'm quite passionate about sort of certain subjects, if you like, really, and I can share that passion. And you know, a few people have said to me, "Oh, you should have been a teacher." But my connection with schools was because I used to recruit within education, so I used to recruit teachers.
Okay.
And I very quickly sort of grew links with schools as a result of that, and became a school governor. I've been a school governor for a couple of schools, but I wanted to, as part of kind of giving back, really, just share some of my passions with poetry with some of the children. So I would speak to some of my connections through my school links, and I've ran a few sort of workshops, and that's been fantastic, really, because being able to share your passion is really important. But I think when you're doing that with people of the youth, the young people, I think that's particularly important, because young people need to see people that look like them. And not just sort of talking about the things that they might see on television, you know, if you know what I mean. But equally, well, poetry in schools, for me, there's kind of two avenues. There's the academic side of things, so you're dealing with literacy, core skills, reading, how to interpret poetry, how to kind of use some of the nuances of language. But also poetry is a great avenue just for expression and for listening. So, you know, I started this actually at the time of lockdown. And one of the things I wanted to do was to give people an opportunity to voice how they felt. Because this was at a time when a lot was happening.
I was going to ask you, how did you find lockdown?
Lockdown was interesting. 2020 was a very interesting year for me, and actually that was the catalyst for me to become active. In my personal life, I was going through quite a bit of upheaval internally. So, you know, I kind of I had a situation at work where I became quite ill, on sort of sick, really, and you know, I had to kind of leave really kind of unexpectedly, really, for health reasons. And then I had a couple of other things going on. So lockdown came at a time when really I was kind of questioning a lot about life. And I found that it was quite surreal, really. Part of it reminded me of wartime. Now, I wasn't alive in the war, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, not me.
But
just in case.
but it was at a time where people were all of a sudden being directed in ways that they'd not normally been directed. A lot of freedoms were being questioned or controlled. So just the ability to come out of your house and move, to have a conversation with people, was being questioned or even controlled, if you like. And I think that was a very interesting time, but that inspired me to really start having conversations. And really, I wanted to use poetry as an avenue or as a vehicle to encourage conversation, because I think we were living through a time where conversations were being limited and restricted. You know, so part of my inspiration really was to kind of encourage that and use poetry as a means to get people talking.
I mean, lockdown was a very, very strange.
It was
strange
complex,
thing,
strange.
It was very, very hard to understand. You know,
It was
very, very.
A lot of
very,
things were happening at that
it was
time.
very, very, very hard to understand.
Yeah.
Where can we find you? Tell us where we can find you, some of your poems. And
Yeah.
Well, believe it, the time is going very quickly.
I'm on social media, so Facebook, Michael Watson. You can add me up on there. Instagram, Watts, W4TTZ, Watts. Or I'm on TikTok, Watts on the menu, W4TTZ on the menu, no spaces. That's probably the best way to get in touch if you want to speak to me or see my work. All of it is really kind of showcased there. In addition to any sort of live performances, and you know, I'm planning to do quite a bit over the next year or so. I want to write a book. I want to publish some work. I want to write several books, to be honest, but we'll start with one at first.
Great.
Take it from there.
Great.
So yeah, I'm trying to be active reading. Just as I say, I just want to encourage conversation. Really, I think poetry is particularly important because it's part of our cultural capital as people, as humans. It kind of catalogues our journey.
Yeah.
But B, I think a lot of people can relate to it, whether it's a song that you like, or whether it's a piece of poetry that you've read or heard and has moved you. I think most people can relate to poetry in some way, shape, or form.
That's right.
And you know, I think it's a great, powerful medium to be able to.
And quickly, what are most of your poem about? Culture, love, anything about love, anything about? No, I have to ask love.
Yeah, of course. I try to write
relationships.
I try to write on a range of things, really, and I've looked back at some of my poetry. It's quite sort of self-reflective about sort of moods.
Okay.
And you know, I've been through sort of more difficult times, and I've used poetry as a therapy to kind of air and just express and feel. But I write about social commentary. I try to write about sort of from a cultural aspect as a person of colour, as a person of Caribbean origin. I try to reflect some of that, share some of that sort of cultural experience. But I also just really try and write on just a deeper sort of human level, just to kind of share experiences, loneliness, mental health. I've got a poem called Smile, which I wrote around the time of lockdown.
Okay.
And the inspiration behind that was lockdown was a bit of a strange, complex time. And I think there was a somber mood. And what I wanted to do was to remind people of the importance of smiling and the power of a smile.
Okay.
You know, I try and write on a range of things.
That's great.
Really.
I must say, I never need any reminder of. I'm always smiling.
It's important to smile.
It is very important.
It's
very important.
100%.
And they always say smiles. You don't know what's going on behind the smiles.
100%. A smile is many things. And in fact, I might perform that poem actually, just to kind of share.
Let me have you get ready for our platform then, and we'll have you go on our platform.
100%. Be my pleasure.
And tell us the poems that you're going to do for us. What kind of poem you're going to do?
Okay. I'm going to do a few poems actually. I think I'll share a poem called The Lottery.
The Lottery.
And that's about participation. Yeah. That was inspired actually. Back in the day when you used to queue up for the lottery ticket and there was big queues, you remember that, when it cost £1 and it was called The Lottery, not the Lotto. This poem was inspired by waiting in a queue to buy a lottery ticket for a family member. And I was in this queue listening to kind of music, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, I could probably make $1 million before I win it on the lottery. From a probability point of view, there's a greater odds. And I thought I wanted to write about that feeling, and I wanted to kind of use some of the music that I heard as a way to kind of explore that. But I'm also going to share a poem called Roots and Culture, which is an acknowledgement to Father Blacker.
Okay.
Which is a new style DJ.
Yeah, I know Father Blacker very well.
Yeah.
I even covered Father Blacker show late into the night on a Saturday night.
Yeah. You know, he's a friend of my mum and dad, and Father Blacker actually. My mum had a birthday party, 50th birthday party, and Father Blacker played there, and I shared a poem at the birthday party, and Father Blacker, he pulled me aside and he said, you know, that was really powerful, and he was so encouraging. And he was one of the people that made me sort of think, you know, it's worth
he's a great
sharing
guy.
that.
I mean, I covered a couple of his shows at New Star Radio late on the Saturday night when he was doing something else. And I remember the first time he said to me, Carl, because I go back as well. I go really well. I go back to the 60s.
Sure.
He said, Carl, where did you get your knowledge of music from? And that was one of Blacker saying that to me.
For him to say that as a connoisseur,
it's amazing. Where did you get your knowledge of music from?
Wow.
You know, which was actually marvelous.
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael, we're all ready for you now to go on our platform.
Lovely.
And we're going to take it away from you.
Thank you, Carl. All right.
You enjoy the show?
Loved it.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation.
Anybody you want to say hello to before you take the stage?
I'll say hello to my mum, my dad, friends, anyone that knows me, really, to be honest. There's too many people to name, I would say. But no, hello to generally anyone that knows me, friends and family, I would say.
Okay.
So hello, Birmingham.
Right.
Hello, the world.
Go and get yourself ready then.
Yes, will do.
Okay.
Move this. Okay, so the first poem I'm going to share with you is the poem called The Lottery. And this is about participation. You've got to be in it to win it, but equally you need to know the rules of the game. So I hope you enjoy it. The lottery and the Eurythmics are similar, so it seems. They've both made success in selling us sweet dreams. And to those who choose to pay this voluntary tax, I shout, "Where's your head at?" louder than basement jacks. Whilst this dream sings like ABBA's Take a Chance on Me, you don't have to be Jamiroquai to see the virtual insanity. As there are greater odds of being in a road collision, no bluffing. People in dire straits expect money for nothing. Some go crazy like Aerosmith. When they lose, they shout, "Damn it." Some break down and scream louder than Michael or Janet. Their mouths then remain silent, but their eyes convey it. Everybody hurts. It doesn't take REM to say it. Don't get me wrong, the moral of the song isn't to slay the player. Although I might do as Duran Duran did and tell you to save a prayer. Because you've got to be in it to win it. And the odds won't be great, as most get our numbers called by cold callers or 118. Thank you. Okay. All right. The next poem I'm going to do is a poem called Star Wars. And this is more social commentary, really. But I wanted to kind of explore sort of thoughts and feelings using Star Wars as a kind of extended reference. So I hope you like it. Star Wars. If we were destined for fame, who knows what it would cause? An end to poverty or struggles in Star Wars? Would celebrities battling for their partners be a no-no? Would Jen have hit Angelina, Brad turn Han become Solo? Would Hollywood's kings and queens drift apart with the FA coach the player? Would social classes still be divided with a princess in every layer? Would the millennium fly like a falcon? The future is yet to be seen. Would Rishi have reared the reins of power like Chancellor Palpatine? May Cameron, Brown and Blair have bared the pressure as the empire struck back, having immigration take its toll as Brits' resources lay in lack? Would unemployment remain? Would house prices go through the roof? Would asylum seekers have been given petrol tokens? Would the public have pondered at the spoof? If I was destined for fame, would I be more benevolent than Ben Kenobi? Would privacy be mine to possess and be that of mine only? Would the press paint us all as clergy living in defiance? Would we have been made to hear of Blake Fiddler and Amy's rebel alliance? If we were destined for fame, could we admit to being wrong? Would we celebrate the morning glory and know the force to be strong? Would we be masses motivating movements or muffled mindless drones? Would we be celebrities engaged in Star Wars? Or would it be a battle of the clones? Okay. The next poem I'm going to do is the Father Blacker tribute, Roots and Culture. And this poem was written really as a tribute to him in acknowledging his passing. But it was also an acknowledge to kind of the music, some of the types of music he played. And if you listen in the poem, there'll be quite a few references to the roots reggae music, really. So I hope you enjoy it. It's called Roots and Culture. Yes, King, bless King, greetings and salutation. Let's address King and send a blessing for your manifestation. Hotep, Negus, Russ, sake of 2-2 conversation. Blacking out on dark matters, energy information. I said, Hotep, Negus, Russ, oh say Kofi, 2-2 conversation. Black King out, energy in, formation. If it ain't black, Dennis Brown to the foundation. A blacker light still rise and shine like Bonnie's liberation. Didn't you know a dash with a style for a new vial and sensation? Black heart, man stopped the press and now my radio station. When big youth hit the road jack, cool breeze stopped the train. Big truth, big pharma prescribed for self-gain. And when the music hits, why you feel no pain? 'Cause music is a mission, no competition, no gain. Forged on 300 years of transatlantic pain. That's why reggae got soul. For real, no candy rain. Culture, horticulture, roots strong all the same. While some are ride cold back, cause coking and lay blame. A man's not judged by just words, but by the things he do. It's never clever to bite the hand of that which feeds you. Especially when it's food for thought. You know the fruits that make this bad energy leave I. You know the roots. ITAL is vital, or so I computes. Something safe that the old guard will bank on. Coots. Keep them cards close, drop your numbers when it suits. 54, 46, me tells you we're a gifted nation. Matthew 12 verse 34 sets the expectation, generation of vipers and greed and provocation. Brother, be careful. What's this sickness you're coming down with? I'm fearful of that smartphone and TV you're dumbing down with. Mind your business and the company you keep or running round with. What kind of world are we living in? 21 gun salute, a thought I'm lost and found with. Like Dandy Livingston, this is a message to you. I'm a whaler for the goodies and the rudies too, and for the bushman who know in the west more land must measure up. For the love, we let it overflow or at least fill the cup. But some feel life's a dirty game and some still nah wash. Some like the variety and know that spice ain't posh. Some nah go a funeral for neither love or dash, and some will deal with the burial like Peter Tosh. But Blacker knew there was more to the game, much more to being alive. Blacker showed me the game's afoot, a 12-inch 45. Soundtracking life, you know the score, let's take 5 before the 9 nights in 8 hours, testament to the drive. We mark his journey as complete, no longer driving or coasting. And some only found out through a social media posting. But in honor of our good friend no longer radio hosting, raise a glass or give tribute. My spoken word is the toasting.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael Watson. Absolutely great.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, guys, let me say thank you for tuning to Breakthrough TV. Our time is coming to a close. Let me say thank you for all you guys who actually tune into the program. Please check out Michael Watson. Go to Facebook and check his work out. Yeah. Let me say big shout out to you. Don't forget to catch us next week with another guest on our platform, Stananichi. He'll be here. Or is it Stananichi? He'll be here next week on our program. When he comes in, he's going to beat me up for mentioning his name wrong again. I know he won't do that. Yes, our reggae artist will be here next week, right here on What's on Your Mind. I want to say thanks to producer, thanks to my Michael once again. Thanks to all you guys who tune into the program. Big respect to you. Rose Jane, Michelle Sean, Colin Donner. Big shout out to you. Don't forget to catch me on the Drive Time Show tomorrow. New Star Radio, Call with a C, www.com. Thank you. Have a blessed evening. God bless you.